Welcome everybody. I'm Kit Davin. I am an author. I'm an indie author, and I love to write fantasy and dark fiction. And I am so excited today to be finally launching a new book. And I kid you not, like 10 minutes before I sat down to get started on the live feed, my inventory arrived. I can show you copies of the books. I'm so thrilled by this. Like, I can't believe it. Like, I wasn't expecting these until this afternoon, and maybe perhaps showing them on the second part of the book launch. Oh, I'm so excited I can't even talk anymore. um, but there it is. This is every day is Halloween. It is it is paranormal fiction. It's quirky. It's atmospheric. It's creepy at times, and it has epistolary elements in it. And for people who are not familiar with what epistolary fiction is, that's stories that are told through documents. And one of the documents I'm going to be reading to from today is a magazine article. And you can see the cover. I'm having a difficult time finding the right angle here, but there's the cover, and there's the beginning of the article. And these documents are interspersed with the main story, which is told in traditional prose style. And it was a lot of fun to do, and I'll tell you more about it. And I just need to get my wits about me. I don't do this very often, and I'm trying to get my screen all sorted out here. Anyway, welcome to my office. As you can see, it's very festive right now. I've got all kinds of great, wonderful things. I've got pumpkins and skulls, and yes, that is a sandworm at the top. If you can see it, it's probably the only soft sculpture I've ever made. I love it. We put it on our Christmas tree every year. Lots of fun that. So now on to the goodies. The goodies. Every day is Halloween. The basic premise for this book is that the dead came back one Halloween and decided to stay. And since then, they have been forcing the living to wear costumes every single day. Sounds like fun at first, but it gets to be a bit much. And the story features or focuses on our main character, Esther, who's a 15-year-old who is actually okay with wearing a costume every single day. She feels safe. It makes her feel safe in this new world that they live in. And I thought I would start this launch section, I don't know what to call it, with a reading from one of the magazine articles so that you can get a better feel for the world building in this story. And this article actually captures basically what has happened and how the world is ordered now. And it is a magazine. And yes, I had to spoof off modern magazines. And this one is a spoof of, and that's the one that I just showed you with the picture. This is a spoof of Canadian Living magazine. And yes, the book is Canadian. It is set in Canada. Even though it's a fictional town, it's in Ontario. And the town's name is Hope Town. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a Hope Town in Ontario somewhere, but it's not that one. It's a fictional one. And so here begins the first epistolary element in the book that you'll read. And it's an article, and it's called Ghoul or Ghost? Where are your loved ones on the death spectrum? By Eleanor Montague. From the walking dead dropping the occasional body part to the full-bodied ghost to the faintest of orbs, life will never be the same. Worldwide, death has immigrated to the shores of our living realm and taken control. Loved ones who have departed both recently and long ago bring unrest. What better way to face this lurid challenge than through understanding? Knowledge truly is power. So here's what you need to know about living with your familial dead. Ghouls, sentient sentinels. We call them ghouls, zombies, or the walking dead. In some youth subcultures online, ickles is a nomenclature quickly working its way into mainstream language. Regardless of what they are called, ghouls are not the soulless flesh eaters horror movies would have you believe. Though they speak in an often creepy manner, ghouls are quite articulate and intelligent. They have thoughts and feelings and agency. Of all the dead, they have the strongest hold on us on account of being material and tangible. They are flesh and bone. Sometimes they are only bone. Decay rates among ghouls embalmed before the burial are slow, allowing them to endure in physicality. Among the dead, ghouls dutifully watch the living to ensure we wear our costumes and to enforce punishment on us when we don't. For that reason, they are the deadliest among the dead. Ghosts, ethereal souls. Spirits, specters, spooks. There are a million names for these gossamer folks. They possess a million shades of translucency, since these are the dead whose bodies have fully decayed or been destroyed. If your deceased loved one died recently and their spectral form shows no hint of translucency, don't fret. That's just a sign of our times. Cremation has become a popular part of the interment process in our modern world. In a year or two, light will eventually disrupt their spectral form, and their fading will begin. Ghosts can be fun to live with. They can also be intrusive, capable of hiding in some of the smallest spots or taking shortcuts through the veil. These moaning mischief makers will keep you guessing about their whereabouts. But beware, they can also be violent. With the right amount of focused rage, poltergeists can do as much physical harm as any ghoul. Orbs, the fading essence. Orbs are the oldest of the dead. Once full-bodied ghosts, most likely ghouls as well, going way back in time, they are on the verge of fading out of existence altogether. If you're quiet enough, you can hear them whisper about their lives hundreds and hundreds of years ago. You may not think specks of light soaring through the air can do much damage to the living, and you'd be correct. On their own, orbs are harmless. They love positive energy and fun times and will dance about in the air. However, don't make a habit of tormenting orbs. Though their voices are mere whispers, they can still send an SOS to other orbs. When enough of them gather in one place, they can swarm the living and suffocate them. Living with deceased loved ones doesn't have to be treacherous. Creating a harmonious cohabitation with them is achievable. Here are 6 ways to improve your relationships with the dead. 1. Wear a costume at all times inside your home. They'll appreciate you more for adhering to their demands. 2. Inscribe boards in a few select rooms of your home where you don't want the dead to go. Your privacy is important. This will create mystery and keep them occupied while they look for you. But don't protect too many rooms to restrict their movements, or they'll suspect that you are hiding from them. 3. Ghouls aren't restricted to wearing their burial clothes the way ghosts are. Be sure to give them fresh modern clothes, and if they still have flesh, bathe them regularly. They will love you for helping them tend to their decaying process. 4. Even though the dead don't eat, offering them a place at the dinner table will make them feel included in dinnertime conversation. 5. Set up a dedicated space decorated with cherished items and photographs, reminding them of their past and your connection with them. 6. Engage in activities that exude positive energy, such as playing music, dancing, or simply talking with them. Orbs are especially drawn to the warmth of shared joy. Just remember, most departed loved ones mean you no harm when they flicker the lights or rearrange your belongings. It's just their way of saying hello. Acknowledgement will go a long way to appeasing them. However, if your deceased loved ones exhibit harmful behaviors, consider seeking a spiritual medium or paranormal expert to help resolve whatever issue the deceased may have with you. If there is no recourse for resolution, seek an exorcist to assist you in banning them from your home altogether. Relationships with our beloved deceased ones are possible. They can be profound, enriching, and educational. By understanding the unique needs of ghouls, ghosts, and orbs, we can create a harmonious existence within our homes, finding deeper meaning in life while embracing the mysteries of what lies beyond death. Eleanor Montague is a regular contributor to Living Today magazine and the author of the New York Times best-selling book Ghost Talk, Communicating with and Understanding the Dead. And as you can see, I had a lot of fun writing that article, as well as another one that has to do with what's called the dead gaze, which is interesting. But I will not be reading that in this one because I have other things I'd like to discuss and talk about the book so they can get a better feel for what the story is about. I have to forgive. I have to say that it's been a long time since I've done a live stream, and I'm having some difficulty with understanding where the chat feature is. Oh, there it is. Okay, I've got it hidden under my documents. There we go. If at any point during this hour that we're on here, possibly a bit longer, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, in the comments section, and I will answer them at the end as best as I can. And now I'm going to just move on to the process of this book, which I will say or sum up in one expression: it was a hot mess. However, I've been told that writing is a messy process, and I can understand why. This one, though, it just felt messier than usual. It really did. It was one of those situations where I was sitting down to work on it. I had my general premise, and I knew what I wanted to explore as a theme in the story. But when I sat down and I started writing this character, Esther, who's the main character, and what she encounters in this new, like, dystopian world, it just started coming out in, like, fragments, like, a bit at a time. And it was a bit here and a bit there, and I'm like, how is this all connected? And I know, like, on a very subconscious level that all of these parts were important. And they ended up being important. But they eventually did come together. But I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. What you need to understand is that last spring, I had an opportunity to post a short story on Regan Macaulay's 13 Horrifically Silly Days of Halloween blog series, which she does every year. She's taking a little bit of a hiatus this year. She still has the series up, but she's doing videos, basically her favorite videos for the next 13 days. Now, if you really want to have something to watch that's a lot of fun and you enjoy horror, definitely check that out. So I had started writing a short story, and it just kept falling flat. It wasn't fun. It was scary. And I was like, what am I doing? And so I shelved the short story. And while I was out on a walk with my husband, I told him what I was dealing with, and that I really wanted to write a fun short story about Halloween. And he immediately said something. He immediately told me the name of a song by the Ministry, Every Day is Halloween. And I remembered the song. It's an oldie but a goodie, a lot of fun to dance to, and it has a really intriguing message in the song. And I came home and I sat down and I listened to the song, and I read over the lyrics, and I thought, yeah, I can do this. This is going to be a story about masking. I came up with this kind of question about You know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. This is actually what inspired the story, and I really want to focus more on the process of the story. It's all connected, of course. I won't deny that. But anyway, I was just like developed it, and it as I was working on it, it just was a piece here, a piece there, and just kind of was all over the place. And then finally started coming together. Uh, at some point, I think I had written about 17,000 words, and I'm like, oh, this is not a short story anymore. Okay, so I reached out to Regan and I told her, I said, I think it's gone a little long. I said, I'm going to try to get it down to 10,000 words. And she said, okay. So I worked at it and worked at it, and I think I got it down to about 12,000 words. And there was no way for me to shorten it. In my head, it was still growing as a story. There was this more that I wanted to add to it. I finally got back to Reagan, and it just so happened that an author dropped out of the series last year, and there were 2 spots available. And she said, I'll give you the 2, and we'll split it in half. And I said, I know the perfect place to do that split. And sure enough, I got 2 spots in the 13 horrifically silly days of Halloween, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I'm like, wow, what a great experience. I figured after that I would just pull the story down, polish it up, and possibly do an ebook version of it and call it a day, and publish it that way. But the project kept growing in my head. It got to the point where I had included some epistolary elements in the story, and I thought to myself, I'll do an edition where I can go into some of the backstory for the secondary and tertiary characters, and I'll tell their stories through documents. And I was gonna have that after Esther's story. Eventually, oh gosh, yeah, it would be Esther's story, and then it would be followed by everyone, all the different characters, and what happened to them, told through documents. Well, by that point, I had already started going through Esther's story, which is traditional prose, and it was growing and coming together even more and becoming even more nuanced. And then after I passed it off to my beta readers came back to me and they said, well, we would rather that the epistolary elements were interspersed within Esther's story, because there was already a couple newspaper clipping articles and the magazines that were already in the story and done in such a way that it moved the story forward or created suspense, or did both. So I did that, and that is where the challenges began. Epistolary fiction has this aspect to its nature. I don't know how to phrase this. It's basically it has to do with time. All the challenges became that I experienced were time related, in the sense of tracking the timeline of the story and the events in the story. And one of the best way to explain this would be to give an example. So one of the epistolary elements is a transcript of a podcast, and the podcast is called Dave's Buzz. He's a senior high school student, and he just talks about things going on in the neighborhood. And in this particular episode, he is recounting events of a fellow high school student who is out walking his dog, and an encounter he has with one of the ghouls in the cemetery, and how the ghouls are starting to really be a little bit more brazen, and they're getting violent, and even though the boy was wearing a costume, and he's talking about this event in the in the podcast, and this is where the challenging part came with the time, tracking the timing, is because you have a transcript of a podcast that was aired after this event had taken place. And it's great to come up with the idea of like, oh, I'll just do a transcript of what? A podcast. That's quite common and normal these days. But then you have to think about the actions that happen before the episode is aired. Then you have to consider that the episode got aired. And then after the episode aired, there another events occur that prompt the transcript to be written and submitted to the police. And if you're not careful with charting this, you can make a lot of faux pas. And I'm surprised. Maybe I have still. But I tried to be as careful as possible when I was writing this. And so yeah, there's a lot that you need to track when it comes to the events that are happening, the time that the documents are being created. There's time that passes. You can't have a newspaper reporting on something that happened that morning. It just, not in a small town. Usually it'll be the day after, or a few days after, if the paper only comes out once a week. And you have to think about those kinds of details, which gives the story more reality. And another challenge that I had, I have two more challenges that I thought were interesting to note, and one of them is finding the right places to include the epistolary elements, because you need to make sure that they're not going to interrupt the story too much, and you want to make sure that the moment that they appear in the story, that they have some sort of revelation, or they expand on the world building, they provide suspense, or maybe even just some relief from the tension in the story. So that was a challenge to do. And probably another challenge, and this was a fun challenge and a very satisfying and rewarding one, and that was about a year ago I picked up an iPad and started using Procreate for the first time. And I had got into my head that it'd be really interesting to do one of the character stories as seen and experienced by another character in the story and told via a comic strip. And so the comic strip is actually done by an 8-year-old boy in the story. And my thought was this, being new to digital drawing on an iPad, and I felt my drawing skills might be on par with an 8-year-old boy. Who knows, maybe not even. And I drew the comic strip, and I remember the day I finished, and I showed Sean, and I asked him, I said, does this look like it was drawn by an 8-year-old boy? And my husband's a visual artist, and he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he looked at it again, and he had this big smile on his face and nodded, and he goes, yeah, it does. So that was fun, but it was also challenging because it's the first time I've ever done a comic strip as well. Yeah. Hey, go big or go home, right? Right. Wow, I think I kind of finished a little bit earlier. I looking for questions. If anybody has questions, please pop them in. I can see everyone's messages. Hi, Donna. Hi, Sean. And hi, Sabrina. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. If you came in a little late, here is a copy of the final book. I think this project is the first time I've ever had to get 3 corrected proofs to get it right. Just working with new software, working on my iPad, working with Procreate, working with, I used to use Photoshop and Word, but when I got a new computer, I couldn't use them anymore, and I didn't want to really subscribe to them. I did subscribe to Word, But I will shut that down soon because I just was losing patience with Office Libre. There's a learning curve there, and I need to take some time and actually learn these programs better. But I'm so pleased with the outcome. And not only is this, there's some firsts in here besides the working with Procreate and new software and doing my first comic strip. This is also my first paranormal fiction. And it's my first book with a color interior. It's got some color to it that's like a dark purple. Sorry, I'm trying to get the angle here. Ooh, keep going the wrong way. It's backwards. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So, and we've got full color. I'll show you the other magazine cover real briefly. I just gotta find it. It's got like newspaper articles. Yeah, and yeah, I can't find it. Oh, there's the comic strip. It's, so, oh my God. Thank you. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, and so this has been a very long, painful project. However, I find the projects that have a little bit of suffering in them tend to be very satisfying and rewarding once they're finished. And I cannot find the other magazine. There it is. All right. So we have another magazine cover. Guess which magazine that parodies. And yeah, it was nice to do a color interior. I was curious about how the color would print. I had heard horror stories about the print bleeding through the color, bleeding through the page to the other side. However, I was very sparing with placement, like how many images had a lot of saturated color and also where they were placed. And yeah, so this is the book. I do have I think I will share with you the back blurb and give you a rundown of the story so that you understand what it's about. And I just need to get some more water because I'm getting really dry. Once upon a Halloween, ghouls and ghosts came to play. The living, however, proved quite rude, so the dead conspired to stay. Now the dead scare the living into wearing costumes every single day, or else. Amidst rumors of costume people being attacked by the dead, high school junior Esther worries she may never feel safe again. She's gotten comfortable wearing her death mask and black robe, even though she feels herself fading away at the edges. Without a costume, how can she appease Mishu, a black cat that patrols her street, or walk safely to school, side by side with ghosts from eras past? Then there are the skeletal ghoul soldiers near the local cemetery, who love to torment passersby. When Esther's bestie mysteriously disappears, she still can't ditch her costume. Dressed as death, will Esther find out what happened to her friend? And will she ever find the courage to step out of her comfort zone before fading into a mere shadow of herself? And that is the essence of the story. It is atmospheric, it is a little creepy, it is quirky, and it is also has moments of disturbing gruesomeness. Nothing gratuitous if you're easily grossed out by stuff like that. It's fun. It's written in such a way that gives the reader a chance to reflect on the human condition, I guess, in a world that is oppressed, and I think it has a lot of relevance to what's going on right now. Um, It'll be interesting to see what people say when it gets reviewed. Now, hold on, I'm just going through. Okay, great. I got a question from Sabrina. She says, all the different elements sound super fun. What made you decide on this type of storytelling rather than going more traditional? Uh, it was instinct. And also, it was a couple of things. First and foremost, I needed to play a bit. I wanted to play around and I wanted to experiment. Uh, I've always enjoyed epistolary fiction, and Dracula is a really great example of epistolary fiction. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski is probably the epitome of epistolary fiction. And I've always wanted to do something similar. I play a lot of games. I play a lot of board games that have epistolary elements to it, because there's a mystery that needs to be solved, and all you get is a box, and in it are newspaper clippings and clues that are like a ticket, like and there'll be a date on it and a name, and that's all you get, and you have to take all these documents and piece them together and figure out what happened to the murder victim. I really enjoy that stretch of that stretch. What do you call it? I'm just like getting that brain to kind of really flex and fill in those gaps. And I find it's an interesting way to depict characters. The podcast that I do, the transcript, even though the fellow that does it, he's what I would call a tertiary character in the story. He has such a unique voice that comes through, and his girlfriend, who is not even a tertiary character, she's also, she says so little, but in what she says so much about her personality and the type of person she is. And it's a challenge to do that, and it's fun, and I just felt that it would be really interesting to take the story, because so much of Esther's story is very has a lot of internalization to it. We're seeing everything through her eyes, even though it's not first person, it's third person point of view. It's limited to her experiences and what she's seeing. And the magazine articles, the newspaper articles, all of this gives us something outside of her viewpoint, but will most likely be stuff that she would come across herself in the real world, as would anybody else. And it's just an interesting approach to storytelling, because you do have to fill in the spaces a little bit. It's definitely more show and less tell doing it that way. And anyway, I find it interesting. Next question. How did you choose the names of the various characters? Okay. So as usual in most of my projects, I have some characters whose names just come to me, and I go, I like that, and I just use it. And it has no meaning or significance other than that. Esther, however, I didn't keep track of all the names that I've picked, but I'd have to look at some of my character names here. Let me go. There's a section in the book where there are texts. I can tell you right now, the Living Today article, Ghoul or Ghost, Eleanor Montague. I chose the name Montague to reference a very good friend of mine, Monica, who lives out west, and who's been a big supporter of mine for a long time. And we've been friends since high school, and I wanted to kind of just honor her somehow in this story. And I'm really hoping she would appreciate the tone of the story. So that's how I came up with that the magazine article's name, or sorry, the author's name for the magazine. And oh yes, in the story, and I should probably caution people who are religious. There is a bit of a religious arc in the story. Just very briefly, one of the rules of the world building is that people only come back from the dead. The dead only come back, or they only rise again if they've been given last rites. And the religious groups around the world figured this out pretty quickly, and the Vatican banned giving last rites in the story world. And there is two letters that are done. One is from a priest who runs a church in Hopetown, and he writes to the archbishop about the troubles he's having, trying to guide his flock during this time. And what's really curious is that I decided to name the archbishop after Jay Ito, who does horror comics, and sorry, not Jay Ito. But God, I am terrible. I just gotta look this up real quick. Yeah, Junji Ito, is it? This is what's called fog brain that happens to Junji Ito when you get older and you start getting like fog brain and you don't remember anything. It's fun, I'll tell you. Okay, so the archbishop is named after Junji Ito, but he's not called Junji Ito in the story. He's called Jay Ito, and that's where that story came. That's where that name came from. I have other questions coming up. Do you have plans for more fiction in this vein? Paranormal epistolary. God, I need to calm down here. Possibly. It has gone through my mind, and I'll tell you right now, if I do it again, I will be approaching it with a little bit more planning involved. It was a lot of what I did for this story was like instinctual and a whim, and I'm just grateful that I was able to make everything work and pull everything together. Sean asks, was the name Hopetown sarcastic or meant to be glib? I think it was just meant to be. The world's pretty dire, and the dead are not nice people, and like the living can't make alliances with them. They really just have to like cave into their demands, and it's it calling it Hopetown was, I guess, maybe kind of glib, because the times seem a little hopeless, and also I think I was subconsciously picking up on the fact that I live in Hespeler, and we have a cemetery up on Cooper, and it's called Hope Cemetery, and I believe our New Hope Cemetery, something like that. And I think in the back of my head, I just picked up on that and thought, oh, that would be really cool to call the town that. Just making sure I'm not missing any questions. I do have another question that I was asked someone. Just making sure. Okay. I was asked, are there any particular scenes or moments in the book that you found especially challenging or rewarding to write? I did go over a lot of stuff that I found challenging, but specific scenes or moments, Definitely Luke's comic strip. That was, I've never done anything like that before. It was just really amazing. I mean, I even like planned out before I even started drawing. I did little thumbnails. I just want to show you these. These are like crazy scribbles, and I did two pages worth and of these things. And when I sat down to finally do the comic strip on the iPad, I was reworking some of the angles, the points of view, what to include. Like there's a panel here, Smash. That's okay. I'm just gonna stop showing stuff. I'm just terrible at it. It says Smash, and it wasn't going to be anything more than just a like a dialogue box with that explosive element to it in terms of design, and then Smash in the center. But when I got to the panel, I was like, oh, I started making color choices, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna add a car behind that, and then it's really up close, and you can't really see anything, but in the context of the story, you understand exactly what's happened, and I won't say anymore because I don't want to give it away. We got about 10 minutes left. I think at this point, I'm just going over my notes and making sure. Oh. Oh, yes. We were supposed to talk about if I were okay. If you were living in your own story world, what costume would you pick to wear? And would you have one or many? I would probably have many because I'm a person who loves variety. I really do. But I can see, like, and this is something that I go into in the story because everyone felt the same way. It was really exciting to like go everywhere in a costume at first, and people were like getting really creative. And then after time, it starts to become a bit of a chore. And I don't know about other people, but I tend to be one of those people that I have a wardrobe, but I tend to wear only a portion of it the most because it's what I enjoy wearing the most. And then I think a lot of people end up doing that in the story. They just start going to their go to costumes, and then eventually over time, they just give up altogether. And Esther, they get just like one costume, or they're doing even less. They're covering up. They're trying to use the regular clothes and maybe just wearing a mask or doing makeup, like a skull or something like that. Esther's about the only one who she starts off like everybody else, but then eventually just settles into this one costume that she literally wears till it's threadbare. And but for myself, yeah, a lot of variety. I'd probably be trying to take like a black robe and figure out different ways to dress it up. Like have that that like a basic black party dress, and that's what I'd be doing. So my question to everyone in on the comments: what would be your costume? What would be your costume in this world? And yeah, and while we're waiting for answers to come through, I'm just going to quickly let everyone know that there will be there will be an evening session for this. Hopefully it'll go a little bit smoother and I'll be a little less excited and calm down. I mean, honestly, 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes before this started, I was pulling in the box of books from the front stoop and opening it up, and I'm like, wow, like talk about excellent timing. I can't believe it. Uh, every day is Halloween. It's called the Last Rites Edition. If you want to really, if you want the free version of the story that is less polished, and doesn't have all the epistolary elements that I added to it, definitely check it out on Regan Macaulay's 13 Horrifically Silly Days of Halloween for last year. It is, I believe, it was the day 11 and 12. So, and then the last day before Halloween, or the day of Halloween, I believe, was something that Regan Macaulay posted of her own work. So, Sabrina says she'll be a vampire and her boyfriend a zombie hunter. Nice. I love it. My book is available on, it's available now. You can buy this on Amazon, Apple, Kobo. I will let you know that I am up on other platforms. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with my Universal Book Link not capturing all the platforms. You can always go to your favorite platform, type in the title of the book and my name, and see if it's there. But it should be on the big ones. Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, Nook. Yeah. And I still have one more platform to put it up on, which is Google Play. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and my website, if you want to learn more about this book, is kitdavin.com. And I will post a UBL in the comment section for everyone. And you can also learn more at my website, https://kitdavin.com. Oops. And I'll put that in the comment section as well. Okay, there we go. And let's see, we've got Donna would be a witch. Yeah, I'd probably be a witch too at some point. It's funny, this year I'm going to a Halloween party. I completely forgot to even ask what everyone's favorite Halloween activities are this year. I personally love when it comes to activities at Halloween, I love just sitting and watching horror movies and eating popcorn and Halloween candy. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so just making sure there's no more in the comments. Yeah, I'm curious. Like I know there's a lot of people who get really crazy into like decorating their houses. They have parties. Um, another thing actually I really enjoy at Halloween that I love to do is to go out into the the mazes that they do, the hay mazes. So they get the big blocks of hay and they create these mazes, and then they get people all dressed up walking around, hiding in little alcoves and jumping out at people and trying to scare them. That's always fun. And I will never ever say no to a haunted house. We went to one in there's some really good ones out there that we've gone to. Okay. Oh, we've got another one. Sean says he'd love to say pinhead would be the type of costume he would wear, but it would be really cumbersome as a daily ritual. Yes, yes, I could see all those pins being really difficult, unless you had them already like attached to like a scalp piece that you could just put on or glue to your head. Yeah, that might make it a little bit more efficient, but yeah, not very practical. So Donna says that she watches the Rocky Horror Picture Show every Halloween. That is amazing. I love that movie. Rocky. And Sean says he loves the idea of a zombie hunter, but zombies are kind of the problem in Kit's universe and might not go over so well. Um, they are a problem, yeah, and they're not technically zombies; they're ghouls. I have to make that distinction because in a lot of zombie movies, there's this kind of mindlessness that the zombies are acting on primitive, instinctual, biological impulse, particularly hunger. And in my book, the ghouls are sentient. They still have their mind, they still have agency, they can talk. They don't talk well, depending on how far along they've decayed. Um, but they are still whole in mind and in body. Uh, and so, yeah, there's that distinction as well. Okay. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I just want to thank everyone for showing up. I honestly wasn't expecting much on a Sunday afternoon, um, but I really do appreciate that you came out, and I hope you'll come out to the evening episode or the evening section or session. I don't know what to call them. Because I will be talking about different things regarding the book. I'll be talking about what inspired the book. I did touch on it a little bit today, and I will also be doing another reading from Esther's story, and also we'll be discussing Halloween again. You know what? At this point, it is what it is. And if you know anybody who you think would really enjoy learning about this book, definitely send them, share my posts to them. Uh, and I hope I'll see you this evening, and hopefully I'll have my wits about me and I'll be a little bit more eloquent with the talk. And uh, oh, and I've already made my first sale. So I just want to thank my husband. He always buys a book off me, and I think he's amazing. And he's been my biggest supporter, and I really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Sean. On that, I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna say goodbye for, or actually no, see you later. I will see you later.